So we simply cannot have a summer of talking about the soul without talking about joy, because I believe that the purpose of life is to find our way through whatever we experience all the way to joy. And we aren't done with a thing until we have found the blessing in it, period. All right, so are you seeking joy in everything you do? So I invite you to seek joy, because when we find joy and live inside a life of joy, all the energy that flows through the universe is multiplied in us and through us. It is not depleted, period. So when you run your energy towards joy, it is replenished. So I want to talk about joy. I literally want to talk about a friend of mine named Joy. Joy has an amazing story, and I have her permission to tell it, and she's probably watching. So can everybody just say, hi, Joy?
Hi, Joy!
So Joy's a woman, and she attended the center that I went to in Atlanta, and her name is perfect for her, and you'll see when I tell the story. So back up at the center in Atlanta, it was a major milestone in the community. I, for the life of me, can't remember what we were celebrating, but we were celebrating, and we held a gala, much like what we're going to do in a few weeks here. And it was a big party to celebrate the center and whatever milestone we had reached. And there had been this major prize donated for this raffle at the center. And that prize was a trip for two to Italy. And everyone was buying tickets. And I would say there were probably 300 people at the gala. All of them had tickets. And there were probably hundreds more people that weren't even present. You didn't have to be present to win. So there were lots of tickets out there. And everyone wanted to go to Tuscany, as you can imagine. And as you may have guessed, Joy's name was pulled. She had won this amazing prize. This is a picture of Joy. I got her permission to share a picture. That's Joy. And she's holding the big golden key with the word Tuscany on it. Do you recognize her, Randy?
I do.
Joy.
Yes.
She will testify this is Joy. Okay. So this big golden key says Tuscany on it. And as you can imagine, she was totally thrilled to have won, but she was a bit shocked too, as you can think about that. So a few months later, things went on, and I just happened to run into her at the center, quite frankly, outside the ladies' room in the hallway. And I just asked her kind of serendipitously if she was excited about the trip. Like, are you excited? And her response just surprised me, because she said she was terrified. She said, I'm terrified. And so I was so shocked with that. That was her response. So at my invitation, Joy reached out to me to get some coaching about this experience she was going through, because you see, Joy was a single woman. And quite frankly, she just didn't know who to take with her on this trip to Italy. And she was very anxious about making that decision, because you got to live with somebody for a while. That's a big thing. But at some point, she wanted to consider going by herself. So we began discussing this idea in depth about going by herself. And fear just had her paralyzed, absolutely paralyzed. She couldn't imagine going by herself to Italy on this international trip. But she couldn't imagine going with anybody that was on her list of possibilities, and she couldn't imagine just walking away from the prize either, just forgetting it. She was just stuck in that fear. So over the weeks, as we talked and we prayed and we really explored her fears, and we realized some of them were ancestral fears, because you see, Joy is Jewish. And in her growing up years, she had learned a lot about the family history of being persecuted in Poland during the war, she was taught to fear strangers. You could not trust strangers, because that was their family experience. And her mother had warned her early in life that the world was unsafe and that she couldn't trust people. And shedding that fear, generational fear, was not an easy thing to do. But she felt like this inner spirit in her was guiding her to travel alone, right? And she needed to face her fears. So finally, she broke through and she made this huge decision to take the trip solo. But guess what that led? That led to another fear. She then had to face the fear, age-old fear that you can all relate to, is asking for help. she had to ask some people for help. And an even bigger fear was letting people help her after she had asked them, right? And in the end, she had she said over 100 people helped her in some way prepare for this trip. And all these gifts came before she ever stepped foot on a plane. So off she went on her own to face whatever would come to her in Italy, independently. And so she had a lot of pictures, as you can imagine, and this is her favorite photo of herself on the trip.
I'm here.
Obviously, she had found some freedom and joy over there in Italy. You could just kind of see it on her face, like, here I am, I've done it, right? So I couldn't wait to hear what happened. I just couldn't wait. So when she got back, what I would tell you is she was a transformed woman. She had experienced so many delightful synchronicities during her trip, which she joyfully shared with me in detail, session after session. And she told me that she had decided when she went over there that she would just trust Spirit to just guide her, and she was going to say yes to being spontaneous and stay in the present moment as much as possible, to not get off in her head in fear. So one of her favorite moments that she shared was that one morning, this couple, an Italian couple who did not speak English, invited her to come have coffee, an espresso with them, which they melted chocolate into. Then they brewed some homemade alcohol. And she just kept saying yes, and yes, and yes. So this old Italian couple just became her friends. And she also shared a story about walking along, and this older Italian woman who only spoke Italian, again, she was in a world with no people that spoke English. And this woman was carrying this large loaf of freshly baked bread. But when the woman learned that Joy didn't speak English, she handed her the bread, and the woman delighted, thrilled to share it with Joy. But what Joy said her thrill was taking it back to her little place and putting butter on every single slice and eating it all with butter. She just said yes. She said yes to eating gelato every day, truly allowing herself to absolutely soak in everything Italy had to offer. And she described herself as free and alive and courageous and bold. She used the word bold a lot. Trust me, Joy that I met earlier was not bold. She wasn't bold. So her fears had turned out to mostly be unfounded, right? And all she found on this journey was joy and more joy and more joy. And joy seemed to be hiding around every corner, in every conversation, and all the experiences that she had. And she was so moved by her experience that she decided she wanted to tell her story to others, but she just couldn't figure out how. So I helped her plan this celebration of Italy. And we were going to gather at the center, and she would show her photos of her trip and talk about all of these amazing experiences that she has. I'm like, you've got to tell more people about this. It's really amazing. But again, fear. She ran into a fear of, what if nobody comes? What if I plan this party and why would anybody want to listen to me? Old childhood belief just bubbled right up, another fear to face. We planned on having this Italian potluck. She's like, how can I afford it? I'm like, let's do a potluck. We'll let everybody bring Italian food. It's going to be great. And so after the slideshow with beautiful Italian music playing in the background, that's what we planned. And over 140 people showed up to this joyful, fun, exuberating event that we held at the center. Everyone wanted to know what she had done, because we all had watched her win this thing, and we were all jealous that she had done it. We wanted to see the pictures and really just share in it, and it was truly a gift to anybody who attended. But one of the truths about joy is that it's contagious. And Joy did not stop with one party. No, she created classes, workshops, presentations, support groups to share her life experiences in moving from fear to courage into joy. Spirit led the way, but she just kept taking action after action, creating her own website, holding these things, inviting people into her home. Again, big fear of strangers. Now people are coming to her home for these groups. And it didn't stop there either. She went on to she has some creative skills. She was an art teacher, and she used those skills to create tangible representations of her joy. She has an entire line of paintings with the themes of heart and joy, and this is a piece. I have one that hangs in my office. I should have shown some of you yesterday, but she has all these pieces of art. And go to the next slide. And this is her in a holiday show, selling her stuff that is all about joy and love and hearts and freedom. It's just amazing. And since those years, and that was several years ago, she's continued to deepen her joy and embrace living courageously. And believe me, she inspired me, but she inspired a whole lot of people since that moment her name was pulled out of that hat at that gala years ago. And this is an example. I'm telling the story not just to say hi to Joy, but to show an example of turning joy into a passion, into a purpose in life. Because when you choose joy, the soul energy that is flowing through you becomes very, very attractive. Now, most of us are not going to win a free international trip. I'm sorry to tell you. But we all have experiences or opportunities that come our way nearly every day, actually, where we can challenge our first response, which is usually fear, and then go on to make choices that bring us closer to joy. Finding and choosing joy is how you transform your life. And it's a journey that starts with this shift in mindset and a conscious effort to embrace positivity and gratitude and let go of fear. Reach for positivity and gratitude, release fear. Because when Joy first heard her name called that night, after the pure shock of it all had passed, she initially felt that little positivity and gratitude, but it was fleeting, right? Pretty quickly, her gratitude for having won kind of melted away in her mind and her heart of fear. And she truly had to shift her mindset away from her negativity and worry-based thoughts back to focusing on the possibility and the gratitude for her to take steps forward. And that took help and it took time, but somehow she knew it was worth it. There was something waiting for her, and there's something waiting for you. Can you relate to that, right? Yeah. Because it's such a human habit, isn't it? To almost immediately, from a reaction of positivity and possibility and gratitude for something new, man, we quickly shift to worry and fear. Oh my gosh. We get offered a new position at work, we buy a new home, we get in a new relationship, we find out we're expecting a child, something really wonderful. First response, yay! Second response, oh my God. How will I manage this? Can I manage it? How can I move forward? Will I fit in? Can I do it? Will I be good enough? And we can't move forward until we set that all aside. It's real, it's there. But until we can set that aside and make a new choice to begin to search for the joy in the new thing, it may not be readily apparent, but it is usually hidden right there in plain sight. Joy learned on her trip, and we've got to learn in life, that soulful joy is not merely a fleeting emotion. We talk about this in Sacred Gut. Happiness is based on things out here. Joy is inside. Joy is a state of being that radiates from within us. It is a choice and something we must notice. And it often emerges from the simplest of things, like that smile or heartfelt connection with a helpful Italian person with great bread. You know, or a stranger, the beauty of nature. Gelato gives me joy. I know it does. I'm just trusting that. But one of the secrets of finding joy is that you've got to learn to appreciate this present moment. Let go of your attachments to past regrets and your attachments to future anxieties. It's right here. Our soul only knows this moment. God is always right here, right now. So joy is only available right here, right now, too. And not only is your soul in this moment, so is everyone else's soul in this moment. Even those villagers with the great bread, their soul is here. And if you're completely occupying your soul and exuding that, you meet their soul. And they're like, hey, have some bread, butter too. You know, that's how it happens. So when you have that new opportunity, it's time to let go of disappointments that you might have experienced in the past And for goodness sakes, don't get ahead of yourself and start worrying about the anxieties in the future. It's time to face each fear as it arises. Set it aside. Find the joy on the other side of it. Because cultivating joy involves acknowledging and accepting both the light and the dark aspects of life. Every job, every new home, fresh relationship, new situation, everything is going to have some hard things in it and some really wonderful things in it. It's going to give room for all of your emotions. So the important point is choosing and finding joy does not mean ignoring the challenges, but actually facing them. By facing challenges with resilience, we rise from those challenges. And when we do that, we discover that we can grow, and we know that resilience is in us. Joy is found in the small triumphs and the journey of self-discovery. We've got to engage in activities that really do genuinely bring up our happiness and our joy, whether it's pursuing a passion or spending quality time with loved ones or giving back to the community. Those are all things that help you discover who you really are and where your joy is. You know, we're learning in this class that so many of us are taking, that connecting within to spirit is really an important part of it. Practicing mindfulness is really key to finding joy because, as I said, being fully present and attentive, we can see the beauty around us. My friend Joy would have missed so many magical moments of synchronicity and beauty in Italy if she had been sitting in her room worrying about her passport or the intricacies of the train schedule. That's one thing you do in Europe. Oh my gosh, how am I going to get the train? You know, or where she would find the next English-speaking person. She had to practice staying present in this moment. And she had to learn when she got home, spreading joy to others can exponentially increase your own joy. Because as she shared her stories and told all of that, and really shared about how she stepped out of fear into a bigger experience, she found more and more and more joy, things to be joyful about. It kind of created a ripple effect in her life. And as I said earlier, when you find a source of joy for yourself, check within to see if you might have the power to grow that into a passion or into a purpose. Because so often our passions are discovered by looking back to our childhood joys. You know, before we were domesticated, we were trained to categorize everything as these are things that are acceptable and productive and practical and meaningful. Those are those things. And then there's all these other things that are a waste of time. They're silly, they're unacceptable for one reason or another. Before all that, before we were taught to categorize, we just naturally stepped into the things that we were interested in, things that brought us joy. Most of us could spend hours playing make-believe, right? You might remember those days? Well, you won't be surprised to know that my childhood joy was talking, collecting friends, and joining groups. That was kind of like what I wanted to do. I would line my dolls up and my stuffed animals, and they were my class or my audience, right? And I would just chatter away about God knows what. I don't know what I was talking about. I made my Barbies talk to each other. I joined Brownie Scouts when I was just very young in every organization in school that I could. No matter how many times we moved during my childhood, I kept repeating those same patterns because those are the things that I found joy in. And I followed those joys into a career of motivating all kinds of people to break through fear and have better lives. Oh, and here I am doing it right now. Y'all are just way better than my stuffed animals and my dolls. Y'all laugh, actually. But what I found is that when I do those things, when I run my energy into the things that give me joy, my time, my talent, my treasure, that I flow into things that give me joy. And when I do that, energy of life flows back to me. I can get more done because I seem to have more time. I have more energy. I have my abilities and my confidence grows. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word. Don't even take Joy's word for it. We all have within us this beautiful quality of joy and energy that makes us unique. We're born with it. And when we discover that childlike enthusiasm for life, and we step beyond our all grown-up fears that we have, our souls will reveal our passions. So don't get too practical. Enjoy your childlike wonders. Let it flow into you and flow you towards the things that give you joy. Your soul wants to be expressed, and joy is the telltale sign that you are on the right track. Just ask my friend Joy, and so it is.
So it is.